All right, there we go. All
All
right.
right.
All right, well, I'll introduce you and we can get into it. I'm pumped. All right. Today in the Lax Locker Room, we have Mr. Matt Palumb. He's the head referee of
Palum.
the
Palum, so
Palum.
you know.
Palum. Okay.
Palum.
Um,
Yep.
He is the head referee of the PLL and one of the most respected officials in lacrosse. A former three-time national champion goalie at Syracuse, he spent over 30 years officiating at every level, from NCAA championships to pro lacrosse, and is known as a player's ref. He keeps the games going fast, fair, and fun. Let's get into it with Mr. Matt. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, bud. I think this is great. I love what you're doing.
Absolutely. So to start, can you tell us like a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and how you first got into lacrosse?
Sure. So I've spent my whole life in Syracuse, New York, so a lot of bad weather for me.
Yeah.
Um, and we've always had a lot of lacrosse around here. We've always had a big Native American population around here, so we've been playing lacrosse in this area. Like Syracuse University started in 1916. I want to say was our first year of playing. So there's been a lot of lacrosse in upstate New York for a long time. And it's sort of when I was a little younger than you, but not much younger than you. It's not like today where, when we were 6 or 7 years old, we were playing lacrosse. Like
Right.
I didn't touch a stick till I was, I think, sixth grade.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
my dad was a baseball player at Syracuse. So he was a baseball guy and a football guy and didn't know much about lacrosse. So, I played a ton of baseball as a young guy, and when I was your age and younger, and up until probably about eighth grade, I played both sports, lacrosse and baseball. So,
Yeah.
lacrosse was kind of the new cool thing when I was your age, right? Nobody
Yeah.
knew much about it. It's like, that looks pretty cool. Nobody's standing around, and looks like a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I got into it. For those types of reasons. My friends, everybody was kind of curious, and I became a goalie because when I was young, the first sport I ever played was hockey, and when I was younger than you, 7 or 8 years old, my team didn't have a goalie, and I thought the goalie equipment was really cool. So
Yeah.
that's how I started playing goalie as a little guy.
That's
And then
awesome.
when I started playing lacrosse, I just immediately went, went to the goal.
Right. That, I
You know what I'm
mean,
saying?
it's kind of hand in
Yeah.
hand. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's
Hey,
cool.
Juddy, can you hit pause for 1 second? I just got to do one thing here.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, I'm back.
All right. Okay. That's awesome that like you've always grown up in Syracuse though. But like you
Yeah,
said, a lot of bad weather though.
a
Um,
lot of bad weather.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I was the same way too. My dad played baseball at UVA, but he was gonna be I think a kicker at Harvard, but he decided to play baseball at UVA. And then,
Cool.
so I kind of grew up like playing baseball. And then
Yeah.
sixth grade, I switched over to just playing lacrosse because I've been playing baseball like since I was like 4, and so I
Yeah.
really got into travel stuff. And then I switched over to only lacrosse, and it's been great.
Awesome. That
Yeah.
sounds great. Yeah.
Um, so you were a national championship goalie at Syracuse.
Yeah.
How did you go from playing to becoming a ref?
It was funny when I was a student at Syracuse. So my dad, excuse me, was a high school teacher, and he was the football coach at West Genesee High School here in Syracuse. And West Genesee is actually famous for turning out a lot of great lacrosse players. Coach
Yeah,
Shamati at Richmond is a West Genesee graduate. So, excuse me, West Genny has had a long history of really good lacrosse. So that's where my dad worked. And in the wintertime, he was a high school basketball ref. And when I was at Syracuse, I had an old car that was expensive keeping gas in it that my grandfather gave me. And my dad, I kept needing gas money. And when I was a freshman at Syracuse, my dad got me into refereeing basketball. So I started doing modified games, little kids, seventh and eighth graders
yeah,
and JVs and rec league and all that stuff. And I actually been refereeing basketball longer than lacrosse. I've been reffing basketball for about 39 years.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And I actually made it to Division One. I did about 10 years of Division One basketball in a
Wow.
couple
Yeah.
different conferences. So yeah, basketball is where I really learned how to referee. And then I didn't start reffing lacrosse till I was done playing, right? So
Right.
I've been reffing lacrosse now for probably for about 35 years and basketball for 39. So that's a lot of games over, the
I know
last 40 years.
that's a long time refing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's awesome though. What's harder, being a goalie or being a ref?
That's a great question. Probably being a goalie. I think being a goalie is a really hard position that
Yeah.
as the talent keeps getting better, like guys that are your age and younger even that are learning how to play and can really shoot the ball fast and accurately. And I think goalie's a really hard job today.
Yeah.
Those guys, everybody can gun it and yeah, no, I'm gonna go with goalie, but reffing's pretty tough too. They can both be
Yeah.
tough.
Absolutely. Goalie is like another breed in lacrosse. Like all the other positions are somewhat similar, but goalie, it's like
Different
a
cat.
it's like a
Yeah.
chihuahua to a pit bull or something like that.
You're right.
Um, what do
Goalies
you
and face-off guys are a little different.
100%.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy about reffing?
I just enjoy that, I'm 58 years old now, and I think it's cool that at this age I'm still out on the field. I still have a game day. I'm running around with the best players in the world, on the field with them.
Yeah.
And really, refereeing also gives you a chance to sort of test your guts a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's I call it I don't know if you're going to understand this statement, but it's chicken soup for the soul, meaning it's good for you, to
Yeah.
challenge yourself, to put yourself in a position you're vulnerable, right? I've
Right.
also screwed plays up, and that happens too, and that's part of it, and there's not a ref in the world who hasn't missed calls, just like there's not a player out there that hasn't thrown the ball away or dropped a pass or a coach
Right.
out there that's made a bad decision. So sports are all about, making mistakes and who is able to correct their mistakes quickly and efficiently to win the game, right? Because
Absolutely.
none of the games are perfect. Everybody, like I said, that's why turnovers are a stat, right? Missed shots are a stat.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So there's nothing perfect about it. And that's what we all need to remember is that games are imperfect, right? Nobody plays a perfect game, refs a perfect game, or coaches a perfect game.
Absolutely. And kind of going off that, if what is more hard, reffing basketball or reffing lacrosse?
Another great question. I think reffing basketball, and the reason being the decisions that you're making. If a regular, let's just say a college basketball game, you might call 20 fouls on each team throughout the night. That's 40
Right.
calls. That's 40 calls that you made.
Yeah.
Plus, there's another bunch that you decided not to call. So we talk about in refereeing, boy, had to make a lot of decisions, a lot of hard
Yeah.
decisions over a couple hours. And in lacrosse, you're probably making less usually in a college lacrosse game, you might have three or four fouls against one team and the other team. So maybe you have 7 or 8 fouls throughout the game. So
Right.
that's a lot less than 40 in a basketball game. So
Right.
now on the other hand, lacrosse, I think is physically tougher. It's a big field. These
Yeah.
guys with the shot clock era going on now, they're flying up and down the field. So the refs also have to be in really good shape. If you can't get up and down the field, you're going to get exposed pretty quickly by these
Yeah.
these athletes that are flying up and down. So, yeah, physically tougher to do lacrosse, but I think probably mentally tougher to do basketball.
Yeah, lacrosse also, there are some fast guys in lacrosse. Like nowadays, with Andrew McAdory, like he's the
Yeah.
quickest person I've ever seen in my life.
He is
Um,
quick.
yeah,
Absolutely. And a lot of them are like, very few of them are
I
not
know.
quick.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so it's just tough. Like you got to definitely be like really. You got to. I feel like we said, lacrosse is all about like you know doing it, and in reffing is you have to mentally and physically be there in the game, calling the plays. Um,
Absolutely. No, you're
um,
correct.
What is the training process like to become a ref?
Now, like said when I started, the first games you join. Usually, the local referee organizations are welcoming, and because they know they need people and they want, especially young people.
Yeah.
So when I was a 19-year-old guy, trying to make a few extra bucks, and he's got a sports background. Great, let's get him in. So the process is you start doing games that are, lower level. Kids your age and younger, right?
Yeah.
And then once you prove yourself at that level, you gradually, if you're lucky, get a chance to move up.
Yeah.
And ref, eventually you do varsity games, and then you can get into college games, and then it gets into Division 1, and then if you really want to push yourself, try to get in the pros. So
Yeah.
you just it's a process of just getting experience. There's no excuse for experience in refereeing.
Absolutely.
There's no, I shouldn't say excuse. There's no replacement for experience. You just have to ref a bunch of games and see a
Yeah.
bunch of situations. And I always say that I'm a better ref this year than I was last year because I learned a couple new things this year. There's
Mm.
always something that happens. You're never done learning, no matter what part of the game you're involved with, reffing, playing, coaching. If you think you know it all, you're in trouble.
Yeah, especially like all the rules are like changing, adding on, or like losing, so you have to like adjust.
Yeah,
And that's I think that's like one of the hard things. Because
absolutely.
I actually umpire for like my brothers. He's eight, like I think it's like 8U or 9U, and
Yeah,
I ump them in baseball, and it's actually really fun. But I
that's
ump
good. I'm glad
my
you're doing that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like my third game, and it's definitely like I learned a lot over 3 games.
Right. And then you make a mistake and you're just like when you're playing, you remember,
Yeah.
all right, next time I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call it like this or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
How
that's
did you,
cool.
yeah, how did your experience as a player help you officiate?
I think as a player, you kind of appreciate a ref that doesn't come in and take over the game and make a bunch of weird calls. I always say, to my crew, I always say, hey, let's call what they make us call. Let's call what we have to. Let's make our mistakes be no calls, right?
Yeah.
And in refereeing, I always tell my crews, let's stay away from marginal. Marginal means things that are 50-50, maybe a push, maybe not a push. Let's call the obvious and stay out of the game,
Right.
you
Um,
know?
Absolutely. What is something fans don't understand about officiating?
The number one thing fans think that we care who wins, and we couldn't care less who wins. They always say, "Oh, you're a homer. You want the home team, or you like this team, or I don't care." I like Albany because my son plays there. I like Syracuse because I played there, and I like Lemoyne because I worked there. Other than that, I don't care who wins what.
Absolutely. And that's
You
one of
know?
the things, like if when my brother was playing, like I was still neutral, but when my brother was up, I guess I could tend to have gone a little bit closer to him just, so I didn't get like my butt whipped that night. But
I like
other
it.
than that, it's like very neutral. Um,
Yeah,
what's the hardest call to make in a fast-paced game?
boy. Usually a lot of that stuff around the goal can be really hard, with
Yeah.
the crease and the dive, and did he get pushed, and did he touch the goalie, so I think those athletic plays around the crease are probably the most difficult. And the other tricky one is sort of like traveling in basketball. I think offsides in lacrosse because it can happen really quick. Somebody goes
Right.
for a second, and you're counting, and you're like, oh, was that the seventh guy or not? And so that can be and you're trying not to miss the action that's going on.
Right.
Right. You
And
don't want to be all counting players and then somebody gets killed and you missed it because you were counting.
I know, yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that helps like is having other referees with you. Like one maybe at midfield line and you're like watching the play happening and I feel like they can kind of see the offsides a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um so
Yeah. Offsides is actually one that you can ref easier if you're sitting in the stands, right? You get a bigger view and you can,
yeah,
they went offside. Sometimes when you're on the field, it gets a little tricky.
yeah.
Yeah.
How fast do you actually have to process things during a play?
Very quickly. And as the levels go up, right? So a seventh grade game is a little easier to process than a JV game, which is easier to process than a varsity game and then a Division 3 game. And right. So, and that's what makes it challenging as you move up. Those refs that are able to move up are able to process things quicker. And that's a great question. Like that's a huge part of reffing. Whereas if you're used to reffing fifth or sixth graders and you go to a Richmond game, all of a sudden you'd be like, oh my God, these guys are going fast.
I know, yeah,
So yeah, you get used to the speed of it and used to reacting to that level, whatever level you're graduating to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, what's different about officiating in the PLL versus college lacrosse?
Again, the speed. Those guys, college games really fast, Division I game, and then you go PLL with a shorter, much shorter shot clock, a smaller field,
Yeah,
right? So there's just more action, more
yeah,
speed, more, so that's really the major difference. It's still,
absolutely.
yeah.
If you were to
Go ahead.
prefer, what would you rather ref, the PLL or college, just based on like the rules and
I
stuff?
love them both. I still feel there's like nothing like reffing in the Final Four of the college, right? It's a big deal. You
Yeah,
got 30 or 40,000 people there, and the PLL is growing towards that, right? But
yeah,
we're not quite there yet as far
right,
as the popularity and the TV. Well, actually, we're getting pretty good TV coverage, but
yeah,
the popularity and the crowds and all that kind of stuff. So, originally it was to be a great college ref or the best I can be at that. And then as the PLL has grown, that's become a real fun place to ref too. So I like them both.
yeah. I would say, like, just watching the games, I think I like college lacrosse better. Um, I don't know. I like having the shot clock a little bit longer so they get more like offensive possession. But then
Yeah.
like going to PLL, the shorter field is it makes it much more fun because the guys like Brendan O'Neill, watching him work in like small space is so fun to watch. Um,
Absolutely. No, you're correct. You are
yeah.
correct.
Do you ever talk to players mid-game to manage situations?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think people skills are a huge part of officiating. Communication, when answering questions that are reasonable questions and keeping a level head and not jumping on somebody for asking you a question and don't be the first jerk, right?
Yeah,
Don't be the first guy to turn it to a bad situation. Hear somebody
absolutely.
out, give them a reasonable answer and move along. And then
Absolutely.
you gain respect over the years, right? People say, all right, he's here. We like him. We're gonna trust him. You want the players and the coaches to trust you when you're
Yeah.
roughing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for me, I've seen you like every time I go to a PLO game, like I always look forward to seeing you because I know you'll do a good job at the PLO games.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Um, what's it like being mic'd up? Does it change how you ref?
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Again, I'm a big communicator, so that's the way I normally talk. I do that in a college game too. You just don't hear much of it because I don't have a mic on me. So
Yeah.
I really don't think about it. Um, I'm just reffing and communicating and trying to get the game done the best way I can.
Yeah, for sure. What is the hardest part about refereeing the PLL?
Traveling. There's a ton of travel. You go all over the country. And that can become, it sounds like a lot of fun and pretty cool, but that's long plane rides and waiting in airports and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That can get old. So once
Yeah,
you get once you get to the site, it's actually fun, and I
for
don't
sure.
mind the games at all, but the traveling is not fun.
Yeah. What is the worst part like from Syracuse, like from the PLL, where's the worst place to go to?
Well, anytime we go out to the West Coast, right? Because you usually have to take a couple, either California or
Yeah.
Utah or we do Denver, we go to different places like that. And Syracuse is not a great place to fly out of. So sometimes those trips across the country can be a pain in the butt versus if I'm only going to Baltimore or Philadelphia or something like that, it's a lot
Yeah.
easier. Yeah.
Um, so kind of going off of that, how do refs communicate with each other during a game?
We at timeouts, we meet with each other. We have eye contact. We have chances to talk at different little breaks in the game, and we talk a lot before the game, so we're all on the
Yeah,
same page when the game starts, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how do you handle coaches, fans, or players who strongly disagree with one of your calls?
I ignore most of it. Yeah, and if it's a coach or somebody that I have to talk to, I try to keep a level head and have a reasonable conversation and tell them what I saw. And if I think I missed it, tell them I missed it. I think coaches appreciate when you say, "Hey, I didn't have a great look. I might have missed that one," and I'll get a better look next time.
Absolutely. And I always see you like on a foul or something, you always like hold your hands up, you turn your mic on or whatever, and then you speak out to everyone. It's like
Yeah.
it's like it's cool how you do it like so like with the net like a natural face and stuff, and it looks like you own the call.
Well,
Um
again, it's a lot of experience in doing that. I've been roughing in the pros for over 20 years now, so I'm kind of used to that stuff. So I don't
Absolutely.
even think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
the most intense moment you've ever had officiating a game?
God, most intense moment. Well, one of my biggest scars in my officiating, I had Penn State and Duke 3 or 4 years ago in the Final Four, and I missed a crease call. Duke scored to win the game in overtime, and my crew and we couldn't see the guy's toe on the line, and that felt awful. And now we have replay because of that, which is good. That's good, but it was painful kind of getting there, and that's a terrible way to drive home from a game when you know you missed something and you
Yeah.
don't get a chance to do it over. And and again, as someone who's played in those kind of games, I know how hard it is to be there and to get there and how special it is to play in those games. So you feel awful if you do something, you know to miss a call that and again, I've never believed that one call decides a game, right? There were a lot of plays in that game. But of course, everybody remembers that one, and that's not an easy thing to live with. And that's why not everybody does it. And, it's hard.
Yeah,
You
how do
put,
you
again, when I talked earlier about chicken soup for the soul, that means you're putting yourself on the line a little bit and giving yourself an opportunity
Yeah,
to do something that a lot of people can't do, right? A lot of your next door neighbor is not going to be ref in the Final Four this year, right?
right.
Or the PLL. It's a special thing to get to do, but it also comes with some heartbreak and also some great stuff. You find out, oh, I nailed that call. That feels great. But
Absolutely.
you can make 10 good calls, but if you make one bad one, that's the one they remember.
Absolutely. How do you, so kind of going off that, how do you move on after a bad call?
You have to. You just like if I let in a goal that I didn't like when I was playing goalie, just like if you throw the ball away in one of your games or drop a pass when you should have scored a goal.
Yeah,
Next game, here we go. And
yeah,
those are the people that make it. People
absolutely.
that, as we say, in goalie and referee are pretty similar. We always say you got to have a short memory. You don't want to, you can't
Yeah, the
live in the
goldfish
past.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay, I let one in. I got to that one doesn't matter anymore. The next one matters.
Yeah, we had a goalie. His name is Brady. I think like maybe 1 or 2 years ago, he put
Yeah.
on his face because he's a goalie, right?
Yeah.
The neck protector. He put on goldfish memory. So every time he like let in something, he would always just remember like move on.
That's
Uh,
smart. That is
yeah.
smart. Hey, Jody,
If
I'm letting you know, I'm giving you about a 5 minute warning because I gotta get back to work a little bit,
oh,
if
that's
that's all
fine.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has the game changed the most since you started?
The speed, the shot clock. So when
Yeah.
I was a player, we had no shot clock. We had no, the refs weren't counting. There was no shot clock. And a big part of that was our equipment was different. Nowadays, the ball's never on the ground, or not as much as it was back then,
Yeah.
because it's a lot of, as you know, a lot of times people throw good checks and the ball doesn't come out because the sticks are so good.
I know.
So we didn't play with offset sticks. That's probably the biggest difference in lacrosse from when I was a player to you playing now.
Yeah.
The sticks were, again, if you got checked back then, the ball was on the ground, and actually it kind of made the game fun. When the ball gets on the ground, lacrosse becomes fun. That's when it's crazy and who's going to pick it
Yeah.
up and take off. And so yeah, that definitely the biggest difference from me today than when I played in high school and college. The shot clock, the speed of it,
Yeah.
the transition, and again, I think that's caused by the equipment a little bit.
Yeah. If you could change one rule in lacrosse, what would it be?
Hmm, I got it. So did you know this, Juddy? If you're an attackman and you're behind the goal and you're getting double teamed, right? And one of your gloves falls off, right? Because you're
Right.
getting banged up. Do you know what the proper call is on that? You have the ball and you've lost a glove and you got two guys checking you and whatever. What do you think the right call is?
Playing without a stick?
No,
No.
because you have your stick. You just dropped a glove.
Uh,
You want to go with
uh,
playing without a glove?
that's a thing?
Well, you do you think you can play without your glove?
No.
No. So I don't know if you know, but the referee will blow the whistle and say, "All right, Juddy, go pick up your glove. It's still your ball." Okay,
I didn't
no
know that.
problem. Then you start the game again.
Yeah.
If the defenseman guarding you is chasing you around and he drops a glove, the call's different. It's a flag down for playing without equipment. So the offensive guy drops a glove and he gets a free, go get your glove and we're going to give you the ball back.
Right.
And the defensive guy does it and it's a penalty. And I've never understood that. So
Huh,
that
yeah,
if I would say I think it would be easier to say if you lose your glove, you lose the ball,
yeah, that's kind of
right?
crazy. I've never heard of that.
Right. And most people don't know that. So Juddy, you didn't hear from me, but next time you're in trouble behind the cage, lose a glove.
Okay, I will. I'll just do that. I'm just gonna drop my glove off, be like, he took
There
it
you
off.
go. Save ref. Yep.
Yeah. What advice would you give to kids who want to stay in the game but maybe not as players?
Well, I think there's a million ways to stay involved in a lot. I've seen in my working in colleges, I worked at Syracuse and now I work at a smaller college called Lemoyne. And like you see different students get involved with sports. Maybe they're not Division I athletes, but they want to be a manager. Or again, you want to get into refereeing or
Yeah,
coaching, or there's a million different things. Some kids love to get into stringing sticks, those
yeah,
types of things. So, or keeping stats. Kids get in, have interests in those types of things. And but no, there's always a way to stay involved with a game that doesn't, you don't have to be a Division I caliber player to love it and to make it a big part of your life.
absolutely. So I know you have to go. So real quick, I think we could
Yeah,
probably do rapid fire, which is just like
sure.
a quick question, quick answer.
You got it, brother.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
Favorite field to ref on?
Ooh, good one. I know this isn't very rapid of me. Um, I'm gonna go Virginia. Really
Oh,
cool place.
yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Klockner.
yeah, yeah, I was just there.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah, loudest crowd you've experienced.
Final Four 2016, North Carolina and Maryland in the national championship.
Wow. Early game or night game?
I love night games. Under the lights is always fun.
Yeah. Outdoor versus sixes format. Which do you like better?
Outdoor, but
Outdoor.
I'm warming up to sixes. Yeah.
Yeah. Rain game or perfect weather?
Oh, perfect weather. You got to
Yeah.
have perfect weather.
Yeah, especially growing up in Syracuse. You don't always get that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
favorite Syracuse spot and why?
Say that again.
Favorite Syracuse spot and why?
Favorite Syracuse spot and why? Wow, that's a hard one. I'm gonna say Vito's Restaurant, my favorite Italian restaurant in my neighborhood. It's
Okay.
a mile from my house.
That's awesome. One word players always say to refs.
Huh. Some that we probably shouldn't say on the air, but what do they? That's a great question. I'm gonna have to pass on that one. I don't
Okay.
have a great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you weren't a ref, what would you be doing?
Say that again.
If you weren't a ref, what would you be doing?
I think if I wasn't a ref, I think I would have got into coaching. My dad was a coach, and
Yeah.
I always enjoyed coaching at camps in the summer and little club lacrosse when my son was playing. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hardest sport to officiate besides lacrosse?
basketball.
Basketball. Ever thrown a flag and wished you would have taken it back in midair?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yep.
If refs had stat, what would your best stat be?
If refs had stats, what would my best stat be? Wow. I hope missed calls. I hope I would have the lowest percentage of missed calls.
Okay. And then lastly, well, has your son ever called you out for a bad call?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that
That's
that one I talked about in the crease, the Duke Penn State
yeah.
game, right? So my son, was he in college yet? I think he was maybe a freshman in college. And I got in the locker room and he texted me. He was like, "Dude, he was in the crease." I go, "Yeah, yeah, I know."
I mean, what are you supposed to do then?
Yeah,
Um,
no, he doesn't hesitate. If I miss something,
yeah.
he'll let me know about it.
And then lastly, your go-to karaoke song.
Go to Bad Bad Leroy Brown,
Okay.
Jim Croce.
Well, that's all I got. Thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome
Jody,
talking
I
to you.
had a ball with you, man. I'm gonna will you send me whatever link that you like if I want to watch your stuff,
Yeah,
will you
yeah,
email me
I
something?
will. Yeah, I will.
All right,
Yeah, for
brother.
sure. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too, bud. Great
If I'm,
chatting with you.
yeah, if I'm ever at the PLO game, I'll try and talk to
You
you.
track me down. You
I
got it,
will.
brother.
All
All
right.
right,
Thank you.
Jody.
See ya.
Take
All
care,
right.
kid. Bye-bye.